Alright, so I want to try to do a review video on completing the square. So I'm going to do an example or two of it. And again, another great place to look would be Khan Academy, and then just type in completing the square, and you'll get to view those videos as well and do some examples with it. Alright, so when we're talking about standard form of a circle, um, you end up with things that, kind of look like x plus 3 squared plus, let's say, y minus 2 squared equals 25. And we're able to tell what everything is, the center and the radius, by just looking at this. But sometimes the equations are not in that form. It's almost as if they're expanded out. So how could we evaluate x plus 3 to the power of 2? Well, that's the same thing as x plus 3 times x plus 3. So now we'd have to do that FOIL method, which we did a few videos back. Essentially, we're doing the distributive property twice to get all these terms here. So we'd have x times x, which is x squared, 3 times x, which is 3x, x times 3, which is another 3x, and then 3 times 3, which is 9. And then this, therefore, would look like x squared plus 6x plus 9. Well, the idea with completing the square is you don't have this. You don't have this 9. So you're left with things like x squared plus 6x, and in those other in that other video you saw examples of that. You were looking for something to add to this to be able to work backwards to something like this. And you use this method of completing the square to do that. So just to kind of give you a couple of other examples, let's say you have something like x, I don't know, plus 2x equals 6. Sorry, x squared plus 2x equals 6. And we want to figure out, we want to use completing the square to write this differently. Well, what you end up doing, kind of said this earlier, you take the coefficient that's in front of that x. I'm going to just do a little work over here in this. You always divide it by 2, and then you square it. Well, in this case, 2 divided by 2 is just 2, and 2 divided by 2, excuse me, is 1, and then 1 squared is just 1. So the idea is we could say 2x plus 1, that's going to be the same thing as x plus 1 squared, because if you FOIL it out, it'll get you to that. But remember, whatever we're adding to this side, we have to add to the right side as well. So x plus 1 squared here, and this equals 7. And that's the idea of completing the square. So you'll be doing those for both like an x and a y. Let's do another one here. Say you had x squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 8x equals 14. Well, let's add something so we can do a completing of the square to both of these. So x squared plus 6x, well, what I want to do is divide that 6 by 2 and then square it. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 3 squared is 9. So if I add 9, I can eventually write this as the quantity x plus 3 squared. Because again, if I FOILed that out, it would get me back to that. Now in this case, in this other one, we have y squared minus 8x. Well, what's negative 8 divided by 2 squared? Well, that would be negative 4 squared. I'm going to add 16 to this side. And then this is going to get, I'm going to be able to write this as the quantity y minus 4 to the power of 2. And then I'm going to set this equal to 14. But remember, I added a 9 and a 16. So I have to do the same thing to this side. So that's 25 plus 14, which is 39. Again, if you want more examples of this or someone else explaining this, I would recommend going to Khan Academy.